Got to talk about another game from last night, the Spurs versus the Blazers. First and foremost, got to give some love and credit to Victor Wembanyama, the first unanimous Defensive Player of the Year, super deserving. Love that he was finally able to play the amount of games to receive this award. A guy that could be winning his second if he didn't have the blood clot issue last year, and for him to be doing all of this at the young age that he's at, it's scary for the league because this could be an award that he wins for the next 5, 6, 7 straight years, if he remains healthy, right? Which is a big conversation for us right now in this series, the Spurs versus the Blazers. Obviously, Wemby last night in the second quarter went down pretty hard and had to exit the game and enter concussion protocol. And the Spurs were still in position to win this game, and they had a chance to be able to go up 2-0. But credit to the Blazers, man. This Blazers team, I think, is showcasing a lot of why early in the year I was a guy on numbers on the board asking the Blazers fan base and PDX to be a part of the fan base, because this team was a super fun to watch. They had a bunch of different guys on any given night that can give you scoring or make some defensive plays. They have some youth sprinkled in with the right amount of veteran leadership. And I think they're showcasing a lot of that right now. In game two, it was on full display. Scoot Henderson, 31-point performance. I don't know another guy who has had a coming out party in the playoffs like Scoot is having right now. Maybe y'all in the comments can refresh my mind or my memory, but the trajectory he's had with his career, with injuries, and we just felt like we haven't seen too much. He's putting it all on display at the highest level and the highest stress levels of games right now. And the performance he had was amazing. In the first game, he was really good as well. I can't go without mentioning that. But last night, three level scoring, shot making was on full display. I mean, he's just getting right to his breakdown, size up, and shooting right over defenders, whether it's Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, getting out of the pick and roll, 1-2 dribble pull up in the mid range, and then his quickness and his strength to get to the basket, finish and convert. Again, one of the best performances I saw in all of last night. And again, for a guy that we haven't seen too much of that from, who we anticipated being, one of the new up and coming guards, it was refreshing. The other thing that I like about the Blazers is the depth. So in that first half, Donovan Cleveland was shooting the 3-point shots a lot. They weren't falling, but I love the aggression. Right, he was a big body on the glass, doing a lot of good things. But in that second half, he looked a step slow, looked a little bit fatigued, and really struggled keeping Luke Cornett off of the offensive glass for whatever reason. Gave up a ton of offensive rebounds and possessions where it felt like the Blazers did a really good job of containing the Spurs, keeping the basketball in front of them. He just wasn't in position to help them close out possessions. And then at the end of the third, early fourth, the Spurs went into a lineup where they committed to being really small, where I think it was like Fox. Oh, I have it right here. Fox, Harper, Champagny, Carter, and then or Carter Bryant, and then Keldon Johnson. And what I love was the Blazers are able to match it with Time Lord, Robert Williams. If you know anything about me, you know how much I love Robert Williams, and I've been an advocate for different teams maybe trying to trade him throughout his injury riddled tenure with the Blazers. I thought the Lakers would be a team that would aggressively pursue him. I wanted the Knicks at one point when we were unclear of how healthy Mitchell Robinson was going to be to potentially go get Robert Williams. I love Robert Williams when he is on the floor, and last night showed why. He has the strength, the wingspan, and the size to be a factor on the glass, offensively and defensively. He's active defensively, where he can get into plays and contest shots at the rim. He had a couple of blocks last night in this series. He's already knocked down a couple of 3-point shots. He had the game stealing live from Denny. I love Robert Williams and his energy, and I think he is one of the most underrated factors to the success that the Blazers had last night, especially in the second half, where Klingon just didn't look like himself and wasn't really adding the value that you expect from Donovan Klingon down the stretch. And for the Spurs to commit to that and try to expose that by going smaller, Robert Williams negated a lot of that, and I feel like his presence was extremely felt in the second game, especially in the second half. And I can't wait to see more from him The Blazers had 10 or more points in the paint for 3 quarters after Wemby went down his injury. I think the first opening quarter, they were only able to get 6 points in the paint. He goes down in the first 3 minutes, or just 3 minutes of play in the second quarter. And after that injury, the Blazers made an emphasize getting downhill, scoring a basketball, not really respecting Luke Cornett as much as Wemby, obviously. But there were a couple of stretches or a couple of quarters where I do think Luke Cornett did hold his own. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama is the Defensive Player of the Year for a reason, and he's kind of in a world of his own. So it's hard to really expect Cornett to do similar things. But yeah, there was a clear emphasis in that. Spurs offensively, they're going to need Stephon Castle to step up and make some shots. They went 1 of 8 from 3 in the fourth quarter as a collective, but a lot of their offensive flow, I think, had some stagnant moments because the Blazers are willing to live with Stephon Castle shooting threes. They're literally inviting him as a shooter. And in the first portion of the game, in the first quarter, he made his first 2 of 3 threes. And then he didn't make another 3 down the stretch of this game or throughout the course of the next 3 quarters. And you watch a lot of it, the pick and roll play, Drew Holiday and whoever is on that assignment, Scoot Henderson, they're committing to going under. They're giving him a lot of breathing room and not allowing him to feel comfortable on his drives and his attacks, which then doesn't allow open shots to be created. And I think that's something the Spurs are going to have to work around, especially also with Fox and Harper. There were times in this game where I think some of the youthfulness of Dylan Harper showed, and the Blazers were able to frustrate him and not allow him to get to his drives as easy as possible. Tamani Kamara, phenomenal. Matisse Thybulle, in the short minutes he played, showed some of the length, the contest that he had on Devin Vassell for the last shot of the game. The Blazers are a defensive team, or a team that has some defensive structure with just the amount of offensive juice. And I've seen somebody talk about it on Twitter where it's such a funny construction of a roster, because you'll have like Drew Holiday and Tamani Kamara and Donovan Clingan out there in one lineup. And then the next minute, you'll see like Shaedon Sharpe and Jeremy Grant and guys that aren't on the same defensive level or doesn't have the same defensive prowess. And it's just a funny combination of players, but they find a way to get it done. And I do believe the Victor Wembanyama injury will now be a big factor in this series because you've given the Blazers confidence. And I don't think they fear this Spurs team as much without Wemby, obviously. So hopefully he is able to spend the next 48 hours in concussion protocol. They luckily have a gap in between games. They're not going to play until Friday. And if he is healthy, he'll be able to come back. But if this is something that has to go a step further, which I would expect us to begin some type of notification soon, let me make sure we ain't got nothing right now. We don't. That's something to keep our eyes on.
Hit subscribe for more news, highlights, and analysis from the NBA on NBC.